Okay, and welcome to your video tutorial. Today we are going to have a look at what the zero index law is and how we raise a power to another power. So, let's begin. Okay, sometimes we find expressions already written in index form and then we're asked to raise them to another power. So things like this, 2 to the power of 3 in brackets to the power of 4. That's essentially saying 2 to the power of 3 times 2 to the power of 3 times 2 to the power of 3 times 2 to the power of 3. That's what that's saying. Or we have the other example there, a to the power of 2 to the power of 5. Now, instead of having to write that out and expand it the whole real long way, there's actually a rule we can use when we raise a power to another power, okay? Like when we multiply, we add the indices, or when we divide, we subtract. When we're working with raising a power to another power, we actually multiply the indices, okay? So we leave the base the same, okay, and we multiply the indices. So in this example here, when it says x to the power of 2 brackets to the power of 3, that's x 2 times 3 to get 6. Similarly, there's also another concept called the law of zero index. That means anytime I see anything raised to the power of 0, except if it's 0 itself, 0 to the power of 0 is the only exception. But whenever I see anything raised to the power of 0, no matter what it is, the answer is 1. So this is saying all of 2a to the power of 0, okay? Anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. Let's have a look at a few examples of these things. So x to the power of 5 brackets to the power of 4 is the same as saying x 5 times 4, which would get me x to the power of 20. This one here, okay, the 3's on the outside of the bracket, so my 3 stays the same. This to the power of 2 indice only applies to what's in my brackets. That indice belongs to what's inside the brackets, okay? So y to the power of 5 to the power of 2 is the same as saying y to the power of 5 times 2, which gives me my answer of 3y to the power of 10. So it's important to note in this example that that indice here only belongs to what's in that bracket. It doesn't belong to the 3, so the 3 stays the same. Let's have a look at this one, applying the zero index rule to evaluate each of the following. Okay, so I know the zero index rule. I learned it before. It said when anything's to the power of 0, it's 1. So negative 3 to the power of 0, that negative is in the brackets, okay? Everything in the brackets to the power of 0, okay? And I know that my answer, for no matter what it is 1, okay, when it's raised to the power of 0. This next example, this indice here to the power of 0 only applies to what's directly in the brackets, just like it did in the previous example, okay? So what is in the brackets is to 1. I've got a negative sign on my front of my brackets, okay? So it's important to pay attention to that one there. So my answer is actually 1 for in the brackets and then a negative. It's negative 1 because there's a negative on the outside, okay? This last example, this 2y, okay, that's not inside the brackets, okay? This indice to the power of 0 here only applies to the y. The indice only applies to what it's directly next to unless it's in brackets, okay? So y to the power of 0 is 1, okay? And when I don't have anything in between these two things, it means multiply. So it's the same as saying 2 multiplied by 1, okay? I can leave it like that if I want, but I know that 2 multiplied by 1 is 2, okay? Then I have a negative, so I'm going to pop that negative in there. Okay, now it's saying 3y to the power of 0. Everything within this bracket, okay, applies to this indice. Okay, everything within the bracket. So 3y to the power of 0 is 1. So my answer is 2 subtract 1, which gives me 1. It's pretty straightforward, guys. You just have to remember the rules. Okay, let's combine a few things of what we know. That we've learnt today in order to solve this one. Okay, so what have I learned? I've learned when I raise a power to another power, I multiply them. So I've got x to the power of 2 to the power of 3. I know that becomes x to the power of 2 times 3, okay, which equals 6. Okay, so I might not have to write that again this time. I know I'm getting used to this, okay, so I don't have to write each line of working every time. X to the power of 6 times x to the power of 3 to the power of 5. Okay, that becomes x to the power of 15. Okay, now this is something like I learnt the other day. Okay, this is basic index law. When I multiply a base that's the same, I add the indices, okay? So let's draw on some of our information from last lesson. That means this will become x to the power of 21. Okay, so sometimes you will be asked to combine your understanding. Okay, it's a cumulative process, guys.